Hello, my name is Daisy. I am the CEO and founder of Banish. I've had acne since I was in third grade, and then I was left with a ton of terrible scarring. So I decided to share my acne journey on this channel. And then I had discovered, after trying so many different products and so many different services, professional services and at-home treatments, that microneedling at home with this vitamin C serum that I created worked the best for my skin. So today I wanted to review the video on Is Microneedling Worth the Hype from Dr. Lee. I respect these doctors, these derms opinions very, very much. And I also have been working in this microneedling field for over probably 13, 14 years, because 13, 14 years, as well as, doing all my pre-med, studying pre-med at Duke University in hopes of becoming a dermatologist before I started my business. So anyways, I respect them so much, and I wanted to give some of my feedback and my 2 cents as somebody who's actually on the manufacturing and product side of these microneedling devices.
I'm not a fan of these at-home derma rollers, and I'm going to use this to show you why. This is a close-up look at an at-home derma roller device. These little needles actually get dragged across the skin, creating tiny little cuts and scrapes into the skin. This, on the other hand, is a stamping microneedling device. You can see how the needles go in and out of the skin. I'm using this banana to show how the different needling devices can impact the skin. On the right, I'm using the stamping device, and on the left, I'm using the derma roller in the proper way that it's supposed to be used. You can see the control punctures on the right versus on the left, how the needles drag across the skin. This just shows how most people use derma rollers in a pretty haphazard fashion. You can see how the skin can get really traumatized by dragging of the derma roller versus the stamping device is much more controlled. Dermaroller use can lead to scars, hyperpigmentation, and infection in unsterile environments.
What's up, everyone? We're back. Dr. Maxfield, Dr. Shah, and welcome back to our channel, Dr. Lee, where we talk about all things skincare and dermatology. Today, popular topic, we're talking about microneedling.
This is one of my favorite topics, and I think I've fallen in love with it more. The more I've talked about it, the more I've done, the more I've seen. And maybe it's actually a little bit of like jealousy because I'm a little too dark to use the CO2 laser, so this is what I'm left with. But I think it's a great option for a lot of.
So this is so important because I actually got introduced to microneedling when I was going to go get my face CO2 lasered, and the doctor I was going to do it with was actually recommended to me by a family friend. So he wanted to be honest and real with me. And he was like, Daisy, if you're going to drop $3,000 on this, you're not going to see the results. Like, I don't want to take your money. Do something called microneedling. And I was like, why can't I do it? Because I thought lasers would obliterate my acne scars. Like, I thought lasers were the end all be all for acne scars.
Different conditions, and we'll kind of give you the whole rundown here.
We're talking about all things microneedling. Should you be microneedling at home? Should you be microneedling at your dermatologist's office? What does microneedling even treat? All things microneedling. Here we go.
Here we go. Microneedling is where you poke thousands of little holes in someone's skin. It sounds great, doesn't it? But it actually has some really unique benefits, and we're just going to go over the breadth of it today.
So like Dr. Maxfield was saying, microneedling, you're essentially poking a bunch of tiny little holes in the skin. So the different devices that we have options out there, we can control the depth. You can go to like 0.5 millimeter, which is going to basically just break the epidermis layer of the skin, to all the way down to like 8 millimeters. I think like the Morpheus 8 gets all the way down to like 8 millimeters on some of the hand pieces, which is outrageously high. But most of the time we're dealing between 0.5 millimeters in depth and 2 millimeters in depth, depending on what you're trying to target. All right, so
there's been so many studies saying that the longer the needle depth, it's actually not any more effective. So 0.5 is really all you need. They did studies that a 0.5 microneedling treatment was actually more effective than a 2 millimeter, because the epidermis, once you kind of prick that first layer, that's all you need, right? Obviously, you don't need to go 8 millimeters down because your skin is only about 1 millimeter thick. If you look at regions around your face, especially for women and we have thinner skin than men, our skin is only like max, like maybe 1.3 millimeters thick. So you really don't need to go too deep. 0.5 is all you need. And so when I started my company Banish, about 2 years into my business, I actually got rid of all the size microneedling devices and only stuck with 0.5. And for 11 years, we've been selling 0.5 devices because there's no need to go longer. It's honestly like a marketing tactic. People think like, the more trauma, the better. You just need to prick just that layer to get collagen induction therapy going. And I have a ton of other videos and studies that I'll link below if you're interested to learn more.
Right, so everyone's microneedling. What does microneedling even do to the skin? So why would you want to poke little holes into the skin, right? I always say that your skin barrier is this thing that protects you, and therefore you should protect it. But ultimately, by poking holes in the skin, it creates a controlled damage. And by doing that, it activates those wound healing factors in your skin and does what we call collagen induction. So by causing trauma, you actually induce collagen production in a controlled fashion. So as long as it's done in a sterile, clean environment when you're poking holes in the skin, can actually have tremendous benefit.
Right, and that's what microneedling brings to the table itself. Now, here's the whole other arm of
It's kind of funny because I feel like my business, because it is based around microneedling products, is honestly the best metaphor and analogy for life and for growth, right? So we want to grow collagen in our skin. And how you do that, you create tiny little trauma, right? Just little trauma. You don't want to create big trauma because big trauma is going to mess your skin up. It's just kind of like when you're at the gym, right? You want to create tiny little micro tears. You don't want to create huge tears. You don't want to injure yourself because that's going to cause problems. Same thing for things in life, right? We always want to do like little failures. We always want to grow. We want to make mistakes, little mistakes, but we don't want to do those like end all disastrous, like, fatal mistakes, whatever, right? So I don't know. I just feel like microneedling, I love what I do because it is the best metaphor for everything in life.
arm of microneedling, we know that the skin is first and foremost, like Dr. Shaw said, a barrier. And half the battle of using active ingredients is actually getting them into and through the skin to be effective. So microneedling is also an awesome complementing tool to elevate other procedures. So you can use it with radiofrequency, you can use it with minoxidil for hair growth, you can use it with PRP for hair growth, melasma, multiple other conditions, and it can elevate it so you have like not only better absorption, but plus this complementing mechanical side. It's a great team player. Excuse me? It's a great team player.
Right. So the number one thing that actually stops your skincare products from reaching into the dermis or in the lower layers of the epidermis where you actually want to see the benefits of them is that stratum corneum layer of the skin. And so by puncturing it, you can introduce new ingredients into the skin as long as you're being careful.
Right. And that's the counter side to that whole.
It's like when you're when you have a lawn, you need to aerate the lawn, put fertilizer in, all that stuff, right? You just need to exfoliate, aerate. And I know we ladies and men and gentlemen, we spend so much money on our skincare products. We need to make sure it's actually going into the skin, right? It's just like when you take vitamins. When you take vitamins, you pee most of it out because your body can't absorb it. So you just want to make sure that whatever skincare products you're using, you're actually getting your money's worth. So that's why using the Banisher 3.0 before putting your skincare products on is so will just make them work so much better.
Side to that whole second half. Sometimes this has been beneficial and sometimes this actually has been really deleterious. And so unfortunately, although some of the studies have shown that combining vitamin A serums or vitamin C serums and getting it past that stratum corneum and that skin barrier can elevate the benefits, there have definitely been some untoward immune reactions where not only do these ingredients perhaps cause a local immune reaction and even a granulomatous immune reaction to cause deposits under the skin, but some people actually can get maybe even sensitized to these ingredients and develop a true allergic reaction due to the increased penetration.
And microneedling is actually something where there has been tons of research on it.
Okay, so I've actually done so many videos about granulomas and microneedling. And the reason why these patients got granulomas was because they were actually allergic to the actual serum that was placed on. So as I say with using the Banish products, the Banish 3 kit, anything, do a patch test, make sure whatever you apply on top of microneedling is something you've used before, right? You don't want to like open a brand new serum from who knows where. It could cause an allergic reaction. And because when you pierce the stratum corneum, it's going to be so much more effective, it's just going to give you a bigger allergic reaction, right? So just make sure you're using something, not sketch.
So there's like hundreds of papers on the benefits of microneedling. So you can pretty much count on it being an effective thing for your skin. So it's going to help with fine lines. It's going to help with some of those.
I love how Dr. Shaw says that there's been so many, like it's been one of the most well-researched like kind of techniques for your skin and for acne scarring and all that, because microneedling was actually inspired by Chinese acupuncture, which is so cool. You put tiny little needles in your body, right, to reduce pain or whatever. microneedling was actually based on that. So I'm so glad there's more studies and like people are talking about it, because it is truly the best thing that has ever helped my skin.
Deeper wrinkles. It can help with stretch marks. It can help with melasma. It can help with other forms of hyperpigmentation. It can help with scars. It can help with acne scars, regular scars. So microneedling actually has tremendous benefits to the skin, and something that a lot of people will see a benefit from. The other benefit of it is that a lot of other things that we do to the skin are not safe for darker skin tones, where microneedling is safe for all skin tones.
Exactly. So because it doesn't generate heat.
Okay, so microneedling basically solves all your problems. We just heard that from Dr. Shaw. It will solve all your problems, but it's also inclusive, okay? Like, we're in this era of being inclusive, right? And it also will help lighter skin tones, darker skin tones, any kind of skin tone, all ages, it helps. So we love an inclusive skincare product.
Heat, it's not as risky to damaging or activating any of those melanocytes and causing that post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation. Now, the most important qualifier is it's safer. Even if you look at the studies of microneedling, or there's some studies comparing it to different lasers and things like that, people do get post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation from this. Anytime you traumatize the skin, you might get post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation, but it certainly is a safer option for those with darker skin tones.
So let's talk about the Derma Roller. So this is something that Dr. Sunder was showing in her video, which I agree. The Derma Rollers, you're rolling them over the skin. It's causing more trauma than stamping is into the skin, and it's going to lead to more abrasions on the skin. And like she showed, most people just go crazy with them. And it really depends on the depth of them. So you can find Derma Rollers on Amazon
Yeah, so when I started my business, I started selling Derma Rollers for like the first couple of years. And it does work, and Derma Rollers are actually really great. The thing is that they're not foolproof. If you're really angry, if you're very new to microneedling, you could cause tram track scarring. And the initial TikTok video showed, and also here you can see the different kinds of tram track scarring that Derma Rollers can create. So I don't want to say Derma Rollers are bad. I just think that microneedling stamper devices are more foolproof.
From 0.5 millimeters in depth all the way to like 2 millimeters in depth, which is pretty deep in the skin. And you really should not be at home creating that level of depth of injury to the skin, because that's really where you're going to get infections and lead to potentially scarring in people. That being said, there are some studies that show that Derma Rollers do help with minoxidil penetration into the scalp to help with hair growth.
Yeah, so you always want to make sure that whatever needle or device you're using, the needles are thin, because you don't want to create further scarring to the skin. So when creating the Banisher 3.0, I wanted to create the safest, most foolproof way. Like, there is no way you can get a scar because the needles are so thin. The needles are the thinnest out there in the market. They're made out of titanium with 24 karat gold. So just be careful of like the thickness of the needle that you're using. I don't think a lot of people talk about that, but I think that's very, very, very important. And also like the material that the needle is made out of.
Benefits with it. My concern is that a lot of times people will use that same device over and over and over again, and that could potentially lead to infection.
Yeah, and I think that's a conversation that we're routinely going to have, especially with a lot of these.
For the Banisher 3.0, you guys know I've been doing this for over 11 years, and I'm always iterating and like trying to make the products better, but they have replaceable heads. So you really have no excuse as to why you're using the same head. So each Banish 3 kit comes with 2 replaceable heads, and then we also sell the replaceable heads on the website, and they come down to being $20 a head. So it's a pretty safe and affordable way to microneedle at home and change the heads frequently.
Home devices, I mean, there are some incredible at-home devices now, like radio frequency to home IPL to microcurrent, which Dr. Shaw loves. You know, especially when it comes to microneedling, like Dr. Shaw was saying, it's effective and it's consistent. So it's almost like not a knock on can it work. It's just like, you know, can this be used safely and consistently at home? And as we've seen over and over on TikTok, if there's a way to use it wrong, somebody's going to do it. And the question is like how many people, and you know, then it just kind of goes down that rabbit trail.
Right. So even I think Dr. Portela did a video on like how to properly microneedling or how to proper derma roll at home, because we know that if it's done properly, it's going to have benefits. It's just that a lot of times people are not doing it properly. You get a dangerous device in someone's hand and then you cause injury, right? So it can be a good device if used correctly and you use proper safety protocols. That means cleansing the skin, making sure you're using a new device every time or changing the device out pretty frequently, and making sure that you're not derma rolling dirt and things into the skin, making sure that after you've injured the skin, you're not applying potentially infectious agents to the skin, like, for example, getting into like a dirty pond or something like that, right? So it's just like the during care, and the post care.
This is why, you know, for 11 years of creating the Banisher, really wanted to create a safe, effective, foolproof way. So again, every time before you use your device, you're going to clean it with alcohol in the fill line, make sure that it's clean, and then also replacing these heads frequently, making sure that your face is clean, you know, not putting any like sketchy ingredients on your face or vitamin C serum that comes in the Banish kit. Like, you can pronounce all the ingredients.
Care and the post-care that's actually really important with these devices.
It all matters. Tremendously, it all matters. That's why when you talk about things like even fillers, people are obsessive and they're crazy about the safety of it. They're crazy about like keeping everything sterile and clean because you don't want to introduce infection. It's very important to be very careful with your skin. So I guess we've kind of agreed that derma rollers are inferior to the Dermapen options then, which is the next type of device.
So the Dermapen, or these stamping devices, are how we perform microneedling in the office. It's one plunge down, up, one plunge down, up, one plunge down, up, where you don't see that dragging on the skin. And then you get a controlled amount of depth into the skin. So the stamping, I do agree, is a much better option for the skin.
It's just more gentle, more consistent. And then again, you know, it kind of comes with size control too. I think with the derma rollers, because...
Okay, so with the Dermapen, my issue with the Dermapen is that every single time I've had microneedling done professionally, the nurse will actually like circle and swirl the Dermapen. And so I never understood why, because that's basically essentially dragging the stamper device, right? They don't just go in and out. Whereas when you're using the Banisher, like at home, you're not swirling the device. You're stamping, stamping, stamping. So ever since then, I stopped going to get it done professionally because they just kept swirling it. And I was just like, not going to have that on my face.
You can't adjust the size so readily. I think people use the incorrect depth on the incorrect areas. Or of course, if you're using...
And of course, we talk about depth. There's been so much research and studies, and I have videos about it, but 0.5 is all you need in order to stimulate collagen. And again, our skin is only like 1.3 millimeters thick at the thickest. So in terms of variability of sizing of the needles, it's actually not that important, right? Because there's not much variability of the skin thickness. It's not like our skin is like 10 millimeters thick versus 1 millimeter thick, right? The ratio is like not that large. So 0.5 is all you need to stimulate collagen. And also what's more important is doing it consistently, which I think people don't talk about enough. Again, analogy for life, right? When you go to the gym, you know, you're not going to build muscle right away. You have to go there consistently for years to see results. The same thing with microneedling. Same thing with doing anything in life. You have to constantly practice at it to see the results. I've been microneedling for 11 years. Sorry, I've been microneedling for more, like 13 years. And so I always remind myself I need to do it consistently in order for my collagen to keep growing.
A Dermapen in the office, or perhaps even have another device. It may be easier to change that depth as you're going to different locations.
Definitely think the stamper is better. Definitely think that microneedling, as we do it in the office, is a better option than the derma roller. Now the question is, what about these micro stamping devices?
Right. So then I guess even the next step there, I think in terms of safety, it would be the microstamp devices. So these are a device. In fact, we have one here. We will use this as our demonstration. This one came from Cure. This is a great, they call it micro infusion system. And so what you have here is you have your container. I've already poured a little of their serum into this. And then you take a disposable head. In this case, it's a disposable head with, I think, 24 karat gold needles. And then you let the serum infuse into the needles, diffuse into it. And then once it's ready, you have this disposable head and you stamp it. Now, this one has the 0.5 millimeter depth. So it's kind of the same safety and depth in terms of like the lowest grade Dermaroller or Dermapen.
So the advantage of these micro infusion devices is that they poke through that stratum corneum. I would still be careful around the eye with these because this is the thinnest skin on the body. So
I've tried microinfusion devices, and personally, I'm not a fan of them. Number one, the serum doesn't actually come out. You're wasting a ton of serum. Like the amount he poured in, you're wasting it, and it doesn't really come out. And then you basically don't really use it over your skin. Secondly, I always recommend microneedling a small section, like using the Banisher 3.0 microneedling a small section, and then putting serum on top, then going on another section, then putting serum on top. So that way you're not like, in the case you do have an active breakout or you do have, some bacteria in that area, you're not spreading it. It's like backwash, right? It should only go, the serum should go out, not back in. And then also, you're going to have to replace this every single time. There's absolutely no way to clean it once that serum is stuck in those holes with your skin cells, bacteria, all that stuff. So you can't clean it. So you have to buy a new one, and it gets pretty expensive. So, and you have to use the serum that comes with a microinfusion device, I believe. Otherwise, I mean, it's a lot of product that you're putting in there. So you don't need to use a lot. For the Banish kit, all you need is a few drops in each area, and the Banish serum will last like at least 6 months by using it that way.
You will get deeper penetration with this, but when you're using it on the rest of the face, you're breaking that stratum corneum, and then you're able to infuse ingredients that a lot of times have difficulty penetrating the skin. So just like when you see those microdart patches from like Hero Cosmetics or Stika, the idea is that by creating a little bit of an opening in the skin, you're able to introduce ingredients more effectively. So this will definitely work, and there have been studies to show that this will definitely work to help your products penetrate better. But how often are you changing these tips out? So I think is like, you don't want to share this with somebody else. You want to make sure that you're cleaning the skin before, because they do come in like a sterile packaging. So if you're changing it out frequently, you're cleansing the skin before and afterwards, and you're not going too deep, especially around the eyelids, this could be a product that you're actually going to see some benefit with. But I'm still hesitant about the risk in making sure people are using these properly, because if the education is not there, then I'm worried that like people would use them incorrectly.
Exactly. And I totally agree with that, because I think I kind of get excited. I think I get more excited than you.
You love this stuff.
I love the at-home devices because I think, honestly, I just love the tech. And I love the idea that people can have these things available to them, because honestly, they're kind of hard to come by. The safety thing is always there, because we just see people doing very irresponsible.
So again, the safety thing is very important, but I honestly, if you're watching this video, you're smart enough to use this correctly. It's not rocket science, super easy, super effective. And I think there's much more. I think shaving your legs is actually more risky than microneedling at home. Okay, I've definitely had major cuts on my body from shaving. The needles on the Banisher 3.0 are only a 0.5 millimeter length. You can barely see it with the naked eye. Your stratum corneum closes within 15 minutes of creating these microchannels. So there's really no risk. As long as you're not doing something super crazy in those 15 minutes, you should be good.
Responsible things. And so, if we're going to have nice things at home, just be a grown-up about it and use them correctly,
This is why we can't have nice things. No, I mean, that's why I'm a big fan of like LED masks at home
and this is also why we can't have nice things. I actually designed it so that this cap like screws on. So that this cap just goes on here. So for example, like these microneedling devices, they don't make it foolproof. One thing, because I just like throw this anywhere. Like I just throw it on my table, and that's where it collects dust, bacteria, the needles get bent, blah, blah, blah. This Banisher, like it's literally like, it's almost like when you put together a lip gloss or a mascara. This cap protects it and keeps it safe. Just make sure you're being methodical and safe about it. But I actually don't want to scare anybody into microneedling, because I feel like people really overemphasize the worst case scenario when, there's so many other like more dangerous things that we do in our everyday life, especially in beauty and health and wellness. Like even buying like some dumbbells, right, to work out at home. You could unalive someone with that dumbbell, like on their head or something, right? So obviously doing it safely is important. But I think because microneedling is so new, the risks are so like blown up, when the risks in reality, if you compare it with everything else, is very, very minor.
Other devices like radio frequency devices at home, I do think they have benefit, and we do want to empower you to do things at home, but just do them safely. So just watch this video and then you'll know how to do them safely. I think this is a good option if you want to help to infuse your skincare products better. Make sure you're changing out the tips regularly. I mean, I think most people, I want to make sure they're using it correctly. This is something I'm excited about, but I'm more cautious and hesitant than you are excited. Like, he's super excited about this, and I'm like, I like it because I know it's going to work, but I also am hesitant because I want to make sure people are using it right.
Yeah, totally agree. Cautious optimism.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Maybe I'm cautious optimism. You're like cautious skepticism.
I'm usually optimistic, though.
You are.
In
You're
general.
optimistic.
That's why I'm late for everything. Well, they say optimistic people are late for things because they assume they have more time than they do.
Is that?
Okay, so I guess I'm not an optimist. Like, I'm always worst case scenario. I am always early to everything. I have taken probably thousands of flights in my life. I've never missed a single flight because I am that girl that is there at least 3 hours early. Yes, I will get there 3 hours early and just sit there for 3 hours. That is the type of person I am. So I guess I am a pessimist. Okay. And I think I'm always like worst case scenario, but I do think that pessimism has really helped me in creating a device to make it like safe for everybody, right? Because I always think of like the worst case scenario. And I just wanted to make it foolproof. So like nobody would like, it would have any effect or like anyone would be able to like injure or harm themselves with the device. So I guess my pessimism works out for me. And I do agree with Dr. Shaw because I am definitely always early.
They do.
Is that
Yeah.
really?
No, it's true.
I had no idea.
Okay, all right, so that pretty much covers the range of what's available at home. So let's talk about what we do in the office. So we have microneedling devices at both of our offices that we do on our patients, and we both have microneedling performed on ourselves at some capacity and some point in our lives. The idea is that you have this battery-powered device. Sometimes they plug in, but most of the time they're battery powered, and they stamp into the skin, and we actually control the depth on these devices. So if you want to go over potentially the nasal bridge where there's not a lot of skin between the bone, you may want to use a more shallow depth like 0.5. And if you're looking at like the deeper areas on the cheek or a really thick, oily gland, sebaceous gland nose, you may want to go with a deeper depth, maybe 1 millimeter, sometimes 2 millimeters, to really reach where you want to reach with these devices to get that collagen induction. And so we control it based on where we turn a little knob, we control where it is on the face at each stage of it, and we run it over sometimes 1, sometimes 2, sometimes 3 passes over the skin, depending on how aggressive you want to do. And you will have pinpoint bleeding with this device because you're puncturing holes into the skin. This is a more aggressive treatment because we're doing it in the office, and we're cleansing the skin first. It's a one-tip use. We throw out the tip after we're done using it. We're controlling the depth, and then we're making sure after you're done that you're not putting anything crazy on your face other than sunscreen.
Real gentle care after you're done. Take it easy. You know, with this, you've heard the list of the things it can be helpful for. I mean, these are some very difficult things to treat. Stretch marks, the appearance of pores. This is one of the things I think people get more consistent results from. It can be helpful for this. Acne scars, hair loss, melasma. This is like the who's who list of difficult conditions. And so microneedling is...
How come I have like almost the who's of all skin conditions? Like, I know God, because, okay, so I have like really nice hair. I'm just like, God was like, I can only give you nice hair, but I'm going to give you every single skin like problem known to man. I have the who's of everything: acne scarring, eczema, psoriasis, large pores.
An incredibly useful adjunctive treatment for this. It's something that you should and could explore regardless of your skin tone.
I think it makes a huge difference. Even like you said, you mentioned, and we didn't mention in the beginning of the video, is like pore size. It makes a big difference on minimizing the appearance of your pores. I like that so many people...
Okay, I'm going to actually use the Banisher 3.0 right after this because I have huge pores and I need to be consistent with the pores.
People can use it. I like that it's pretty well tolerated, depending on your ability to tolerate pain. Most of the time, we're going to numb you.
I was actually going to ask you this. So you numb.
So we numb here.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So numb, you actually with a 0.5, like the Banisher is, honestly, it's less painful than tweezing your eyebrows or getting your eyebrows threaded, in my opinion. But you can buy numbing cream just like on Amazon, or you can get it over the counter, 4% lidocaine, which is fine. You can definitely use that if you're like a little bit worried.
Before, but I've seen it done unnumbed, so it depends on how aggressive that you want, what your pain tolerance is. But we can make it pretty comfortable for you, especially with numbing. We actually have nitrous oxide to also reduce some of the anxiety and have a little bit of analgesic effect as well. So you can have it be very tolerable for you. What's the downtime with microneedling?
So it's pretty dependent on person and aggressiveness. So this, along with everything else, will be personalized. It could be anywhere from a day to a week, just depending on how much you're trying to treat.
Right. So again, minimal downtime compared to other procedures. I would say day 1, you have pinpoint bleeding. Day 2, mostly just like redness occurs afterwards and some texture. And you get a little bit of an exfoliant effect where your skin's a little bit flaky, dry for maybe like 3 to 5 days. And then about in a week, I think you're pretty much back to baseline, like Dr. Maxfield said.
Okay, so microneedling at home using the Banisher 3.0, if you're going to experience any downtime, and currently I actually don't because I've been doing it for so long and I literally have really thick skin. I just recommend, the next day or the day of, don't go out like in the sun. Don't go sunbathing. It's not the day to do a beach day. Make sure you're wearing sunscreen. I would recommend like minimal makeup, so it's not the day to go glam. And I actually like to microneedle about like 3 days, 2 to 3 days before a big event, a photo shoot, whatnot. So I feel like it just kind of gives my skin this amazing glow when I microneedle. So yeah, you can plan your things out like that, but I wouldn't recommend doing it the day before the day of if you have like a big event or whatever. Just keep your skincare simple, keep your makeup minimal, wear sunscreen, and you should be good to go. So thank you all so much for watching. Let me know if there's any other videos on YouTube you want me to review about microneedling. Again, I've been doing this business for over like 15 years. We've been in business for 11 years. I'm in the business of creating microneedling products and innovating and doing all the research, reading all the research and the articles and the clinical trials to really make the Banish products in the Banisher 3.0 kit the best at-home microneedling product out there. So thank you all so much for watching, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.